Welcome back to the Dean Obeidallah Show. Joining us now, our friend Frank Figliuzzi, FBI Assistant Director, retired national security expert, and his book was a bestseller, Long Haul, Hunting the Highway Serial Killers. And check out his Substack. It's really good. I subscribe to it. It's TheFrankFigliuzzi.substack.com, TheFrankFigliuzzi.substack.com. It's good stuff, and we've done a Substack Live together. We'll do more in the future. But Frank, nice to see you, my friend.
Hey, thank you for the shameless promotion. I appreciate it.
It's good. This is what we do. My whole show's an infomercial, interrupted by news. That's how we look at it. So, look, the No Kings protest, I want to talk to you from national security point of view. But look, you're not oblivious to what we're living through. This is a war on our democratic republic. How important is it, from your point of view, that there's a big turnout? And in terms of significance to protecting our democratic republic?
Oh, yeah. I think the timing is, first of all, just right in terms of where we are and the need for a public outcry and demonstration. It's got to be done right, chiefly peacefully. And then if you think it's futile and no one pays attention, I'm here to tell you, Washington pays close attention to numbers. So not to be crass, but size does matter. And we have a president who has repeatedly talked about the size of his crowds, right? The likes of which we've never seen before. We need the likes of which we've never seen before. There's been estimates of 6 million. I think it's more. I think a lot of people aren't registering, and I understand that, by the way. We can talk about that in a second. Aren't saying, I'm going. So numbers matter. Timing is perfect. It does a few things. First, if it's successful and in large numbers, it sets Trump back on his heels. Now be prepared for success. I always tell my people this in the Bureau. Are we ready to succeed on this mission? And they'd look at me like, what do you mean? I go, well, we talk about failure a lot, but what if we get this exactly right? Are we ready for that? What do I mean by that? I think more's coming from Washington. I think this will anger them. And I say that because and by the way, it's also good. Large crowds will energize the folks who don't want authoritarianism in our country. It will serve that purpose. It will get people united. I hope a lot of people bring American flags to carry instead of, I know there's various signs that people are talking about, but we should take back the flag. It's been misappropriated, particularly in some parts of the country. But why do I think there's going to be some issues? Why do I think we'll even see some more aggressive tactics from federal law enforcement, not only Saturday, but beyond if it succeeds? Because this is the Trump's national security presidential memorandum. That's a big deal when there's a national security, an NSPM, okay? Just issued at the end of September. You see my green highlights throughout all of this because there's a lot to talk about there. But let me just say this in a nutshell, Dean, and I'll shut up.
Go ahead.
Well, first, you've been hearing this unofficially in people saying that Saturday's No Kings Day is about hating America. It's a hate America rally. It's anti-American. It's people who are Antifa. And you can blow that all off, except everybody's on the same script, Dean. Pay attention when House, Senate, White House, federal cabinet secretaries are all using the same language. It's a hate America rally. It's Antifa. It's anti-American. It's anti-Christian. That's in an NSPM from the president. Anti-Christian, these people. Anti-America. They hate cops. Don't blow that off, because he then later in the memo directs all federal law enforcement agencies to identify these people that are out there opposing us, who are anti-Christian, anti-American, anti-Black Lives Matter. He lists all of that. I'm not making it up. So if you're an FBI agent, I was for 25 years, and you've got this NSPM from the president asking you to identify the people that are anti-American, they hate America. They have a propensity to violence. God forbid, they're conspiring. They use social media to organize. Does that sound like King's Day to you? Yeah, maybe, right? And if you're an FBI agent in Oshkosh and you go, I got a King's Day. I gotta get a promotion. I need to identify these people. How do I do that? I use the techniques that I've been given. What are your techniques? License plate readers, geofencing of your cell phone activity, pinging off the nearest cell tower, facial recognition. Will that be in play Saturday? license plate readers. I undercover agents. I don't know, but I know I've seen the NSPM and I know how FBI agents respond to get the job done.
Right. And I wrote about it in my Substack article just a few days ago, and it's titled "Countering Domestic Terrorism and Organized Political Violence."
Yes.
And in there, it talks about that all political violence falls, quote, under the umbrella of self-described anti-fascism, and they say common threads of the anti-fascism movement are advocating anti-capitalism, anti-Americanism, anti-Christianity, hostility to those who hold traditional American values on family, religion, and morality. And as you were saying, the goal is to use the government to disband and uproot networks, entities, and organizations that are advocating this. This is, look, Frank, we've lived through when American presidents have deemed an outside enemy the greatest threat, and we have to all unite around it. This administration's done something different. It has labeled their political opponents as the number one threat to America. We have not lived through that. I don't think our fellow Americans are aware of where this can go, because history tells us where this can go. So how concerned are you about that? Because it used to be Al-Qaeda and ISIS, and they were real threats. This is the American who doesn't agree with me is now the new enemy. They hate America. They're Antifa, they're pro-Hamas, they are a terrorist, and you should treat them as that. And that's deeply concerning.
Yeah. So we literally now have an official document that will live forevermore that says we've got to fight back against this group that we don't really think exists. It doesn't say that, but I'm adding the part about I still don't have the evidence that this is major, sophisticated, as Secretary Noem said. They are as sophisticated as Hamas and Hezbollah. Please show us the evidence. Show me the money. And the IRS is directed to act here. The Treasury Department is directed to act in this NSPM. People's bank accounts are going to be looked at. And again, it's very vague. I always get concerned when something's too vague to really figure out. Antifa is vague. This idea of opposition being anti-Christian, what? You're making stuff up now. And so when did we see this in some related form? McCarthyism in the 50s, careers and lives were ruined because somebody got called a communist. And many people were put literally on a blacklist. Are we now going to see blacklists? And now this has got, I would argue this could be worse potentially than McCarthyism, because now you've got every federal agency trying to figure out who you are. And we're officially now designating you a domestic terrorist. So here's the thing, I have to have a mea culpa here. For years, perhaps even on your show, I've been saying, hey, we don't have a way. Don't worry, he can tweet all he wants, particularly in his first term. Remember a tweet or Truth Social, I hereby designate Antifa a domestic terror organization. And I would get on the air and I would say, calm down. We actually don't have a formal way of designating a domestic terror group. By design, our country has decided long ago, we don't like spying on ourselves. So we're not going to have a president who designates us terrorists. Well, by God, you know what this does? Near the end, I am telling Bondi and Patel they can designate a domestic terror organization, and please create a list. So press delete on anything I've told you in the past 8 years. And now we have a way to designate, and it's up to Bondi and Patel to come up with a list. And hint, hint, spoiler alert, the rest of these pages tell us that it's Antifa. Whoever that is, which is anybody showing up and opposing Trump.
Very much so. I'm chatting with Frank Figliuzzi. Frank, what about the idea that while there's no federal statute that empowers a president to do this, can you see this Supreme Court, which is really an apparatus of the Republican Party, saying, well, a president has the inherent power to designate a group, a terrorist group, because he's protecting the people and he's supposed to protect, as commander-in-chief, protect the citizens of the United States of America. This concerns me because there is no federal statute. They made a choice, Congress. But I fear the Supreme Court's going to say that of course, he has an inherent power to designate groups as terrorist groups. Yeah.
So I say this, why haven't we done that for the history of the United States? Because we don't want the abuses that we're seeing now. And let's compare and contrast to the international terrorist group designation, which is almost a whole of government decision-making process. It's all hands on deck around the table to decide whether or not Boko Haram, Al Qaeda, ISIS, let's keep going, and kind of lesser organizations are or are not. Treasury and IRS gets involved. That's why this spooked me. This memo spooked me because yes, it's addressed also to Treasury and IRS. And that's what we do when we designate international terrorist groups. But we have a process, Dean. And I know Trump has never used the word process, probably in his entire life.
No.
But there's a reason why we have a process, so that it's a holistic decision that allows for contrary opinions. When you have meetings to designate a group and perhaps issue sanctions and all of that, you have contrary opinions at the table, and that's a healthy thing. Hey, we got a problem here. You're going overboard, or we haven't proved that this is a centralized, organized, group. If you do away with that process and the decision is in one man's hands, you abuse that you're begging for at this point.
I agree with you. And Reuters reported last Friday that they have already begun investigating Indivisible, one of the key organizations organizing this event. They've already begun investigating Act Blue before this, but now doing more to Act Blue.
Sure.
And I had Ezra Levin on my show last Friday, the co-founder of Indivisible, and they said they're ready for the fight. But this could be the last massive protest against Trump if Trump has his way. I mean, I have to be blunt, and I don't want to be dark gratuitously, but if this were to go down the path they want, they would start freezing the bank accounts of Indivisible and Act Blue and other Democratic platforms and whatever groups they designate, where it'll put self-censorship, a stifling, a chilling effect on others. People won't donate to these organizations. People are fearing to go march in the streets because they start arresting people. And people think, well, the system's designed to protect us from that. Well, it might be, but you're going to have to hire a lawyer and go through a system that might not protect you at the end of the day. I've got to be honest.
Right. And that legal system could take a year or more. And what do we have happening in about a year? The midterm elections. So if you're intervening in people's campaign donations to groups that do that, if you're silencing, suppressing free speech, assembly, yeah, I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that a lot could come from Saturday. A lot could come in terms of our future.
What would you say to people as a practical matter that say there are the agitators there that we are concerned, and that's not that's certainly plausible given that in Black Lives Matter protests there were some guys from the Boogaloo Boys. There could be some MAGA people worked up by this. Or Republicans, it's the first time they've demonized a rally in advance, sort of as a test case to see what happens.
Yeah.
What if MAGA people go in there undercover, hiding, they start attacking people? What is your recommendation to people who want to peacefully protest?
Yeah. So first, if you think that scenario is far-fetched, I'd say no, it's not. First of all, in my FBI career, I've worked against the global anarchists, the black bloc guys and gals that come in from Europe to disrupt the G8, the G20. I've been on-scene commander at a G8 and a Free Trade of the Americas summit. I've seen them in action, and their job is to create anarchy. My greatest concern is that they start showing up.
Oh.
The professional anarchists start showing up. I would be very concerned about that. Number two, and they do try to hurt police and destroy property. I hope that even people who define themselves as global anarchists understand that this would really undermine, freedoms, and this doesn't help at all. Number two, let's talk about Trump's influence on people to get them to act out violently. We could spend the next hour on examples of people listening to Trump's rhetoric and acting out violently, from the kid who shot up the Walmart in El Paso, to the grocery store shooter in Buffalo, to the guy who tried to breach the Cincinnati FBI office, to the guy who had to get shot in Provo, Utah by FBI agents, on and on and on. Oh, the guy who hit Nancy Pelosi's husband with a hammer and almost killed him. Now think about Saturday. What have we been hearing? It's anti-America. They hate America. They're anti-Christian. They're anti-police. And so if you're a knucklehead who gets radicalized to violence that way, maybe you show up. Maybe you show up and try to be violent. Maybe you try to instigate violence. So it's possible. What's my recommendation? I've always told people if you're going to protests like this, and I encourage peaceful exercise of free speech and assembly,
Mhm.
go with a partner. Tell family and friends where you're going. Even where in the streets you appear to be. Hey, I'm going to be at the corner of whatever. Stay near the edge of the crowd so that you're easily extracted. You can go out and if things look a little hinky, in the middle or in front. Now you've got to. I'm not a big fan of this business of, hey, you know how Facebook has interested in going, click, right. Uh, in this, as we just talked about this national security memo, maybe not good idea to have a digital trail that you attended. Posting photos of yourself, I don't know, facial recognition, license plate reader, geo fencing. Decide whether you do or do not want to bring your phone. And the problem is phones are good to get help, to,
Right.
locate your car or your house. But you got to kind of make that decision. The simple decision of how are you getting there? Public transit, Uber, maybe not the car. Where are you parking your car? All of those kinds of things logistically should be thought about.
I'm chatting with our friend Frank Figliuzzi. Frank, on some level, you take a step back and you talk about people who are going with the best of intentions. They want to peacefully protest the President of the United States, guaranteed by the First Amendment, the idea of peaceful assembly, redress of our government. But you have to actually be concerned that there might be a backlash by this administration against people who peacefully protest. It's not something that we usually have to worry about, not in the modern era too much. It's only something we've read about in other countries and other autocratic nations, fascist nations. How concerned are you about where we're heading?
I think we're headed to a dark place and then eventually perhaps a much brighter place. But the question is, how long will it take to get to the brighter place? One of the things that concerns me is that it's not just Trump calling these people, anybody who shows up, hate America people, hate the police, hate Christianity. They're pro. Someone in the administration said that these are pro Black Lives Matter people. Oh, okay. What does that mean? And so, if it were only Trump, but it's not. It's members of Congress. It's Speaker Mike Johnson.
Mhm.
It's a hate America rally. There is a script, Dean,
Yep.
that has been handed out, and they're all in on the script. And after Charlie Kirk died, what did we hear? Stop the rhetoric, tone it down, get rid of the violence. And all we've heard all week about Saturday is it's the stuff that incites violence. So I'm worried. Yeah,
Yeah.
I am.
I had Glenn Kirshner on yesterday or 2 days ago. 2 days ago, we talked about it. He said he's concerned as well that this is the kind of language that could incite violence easily if you're an extremist and you believe literally what they're saying. Why do you think? Look, there was already a No Kings rally in July. There was no organized demonization plan by the GOP. They just let the rally happen, which that's the way it should happen. People protest. We didn't demonize people going January 6th. At least I didn't. They wanted to go protest peacefully for Trump on that day and to say goodbye to a loser. I didn't care. The attack's different. I'm saying, why do you think changed that from July to now that the administration, and you're 100% right, they are following a script of demonizing peaceful American protesters?
So first of all, the irony here is, again, in an official presidential national security memo, he says these people are demonizing us, right? He says it, and then he does it himself, and everybody seems to be in on it. And what's the difference? I
Do you
think they're
think things have
scared.
changed?
I
What
think
would
they're
you?
scared. I think they're scared. I think they're sensitive to polling numbers.
Mm-hmm.
I think they understand they're vulnerable. We're seeing a bit of desperation here. And if the fear is 6 million or 10 million people show up on Saturday, they know they've got a problem. And the only way to do that, if they insist on not changing their tune, is to demonize these folks and call them a threat, even in an official presidential memo.
And last thing, and I appreciate your insight, especially on the eve of No Kings here to give people actual practical advice. But I was very concerned about the radicalization effort, not just of the protesters, but of the entire Democratic Party. And 2 weeks ago, I flagged that I was very concerned. Trump had said on July 4th he hates Democrats. And that was a little concerning. The Charlie Kirk event, he talked about wishing us ill. Then he put a post on social media saying the Democratic Party, this is 2 weeks ago, Democratic Party is, quote, the party of hate, evil, and Satan. Then yesterday, Carolyn Levitt, the press secretary on Fox News, said Democratic Party's main constituency is made of Hamas terrorists, illegal aliens, and violent criminals. They are dehumanizing us the way if you're in a war, you dehumanize the enemy so you can visit upon them inhumane acts. That's what's concerning to me. What do you hear?
So in terms of monitoring chat rooms of potentially violent folks, we're seeing minimal. I mean, we're seeing this name calling. So it's resonating. It's become an echo chamber. So if they're all about creating an echo chamber where people repeat back demons, anti-Christian, evil, Hamas, pro-Hamas, it's working. It's working. What I'm not seeing right now, and here's the problem. I'm just one guy. I'm not the FBI. Do I have confidence that the FBI as an agency is going to call out and respond to, because that's their job to try and figure out whether there's violence Saturday, right? Do I have any confidence that even if somebody in some field office says, whoa, hey, oh, I just saw something, doesn't look right, floats it up to headquarters, do I have confidence that headquarters is going to go, yeah, no, we got to jump on that right away? I don't. It pains me to say it, but I don't. The good news, if any, is in my corner of the world, I'm seeing the echoing of that rhetoric, but I'm not seeing a call for action and violence yet. But that could be because they've learned some lessons from Jan 6. Oh my God, they did use. They know we're on to them. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know.
But are you concerned that if they continue with this drumbeat of language, that it really is dehumanizing rhetoric? It parallels in a way genocidal rhetoric. If you dehumanize the other side to say that they're evil, that they're terrorists, they're the party of Satan, I mean, does that raise any alarm bells to you?
If I haven't been clear, let me be clear. This is the equivalent of international terror groups calling us the infidels. This is a dehumanization process, and it's designed to radicalize. And in the best of intentions, because there really is no best intention when you demonize a group of people, but the best of intentions would be, we really want to kind of lower the turnout Saturday, and we want a good voter turnout in November. The worst possible thing is somebody's got designs on making this violent enough where they can invoke the Insurrection Act, either in a particular city or state or even a region.
Yeah, that's same concern. I have the same concern. Glenn was on. I had the same concern.
Yeah,
we all have that concern.
Look at how federal judges have been ruling with regard to the deployment of troops and or the National Guard. Well, all you need is to point to one city and go, see, I told you. And then you have a federal judge who almost has no other choice but to go, yeah, you're right. This got way out of control. There you have it.
Well, we're going to see when the Supreme Court gets their hand on these cases. I have no confidence whatsoever. I believe they will rule for Trump every time, but we could be surprised because you might have two that switch over, which are Roberts and Amy Coney Barrett. And when you're resting your republic on Justice Roberts and Amy Coney Barrett, you're in a desperate way. That's not the people you want to rest. So, Frank, before we wrap up, where do you want people to follow you?
Hey, I'm really trying to grow the Substack audience and subscribers, and I want to do that. So you can find me at the Frank Figliuzzi on Substack. Hey, just today found out, and this is a blip on the radar screen, but today's some amazing thing. I'm 41 with a bullet, as they say, climbing the chart.
On the listing of Substack thing. That's great. Congratulations.
Yeah,
it's growing. I saw it.
That and $5 will get you a cup of coffee. But that's a testament to all the people really trying to move away from corporate news and find the voices they want to listen to. So thanks to everybody.
I agree. Thank you, Frank.